Hello, welcome to the next episode of Relevant. I'm Trey Slickers, and I'm here with my co-host,
Nayama Marimbing.
and our student guest is,
Cora Hall.
and our spiritual leader is,
Seth Kelly.
awesome. So, I have a quick statistic that I'd like to tease your brain with before we dive in. 4 out of 10 people in the Adventist church leave, and 63% of those 4 people were young adult when they left. Why is that, and what were they doing? What are we doing wrong?
I think we're focusing too much on church events rather than the relationships we're making in church.
Like the individual connections we have within church members.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way too.
Wow, because I almost kind of thought the opposite.
Oh,
So, when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking we're losing people because we're not keeping them involved. I was talking with Pastor Jeff the other day, and when we don't give people a mission, there's no reason for them to stay in the church. So all these events, I would say, are giving the youth a mission or a purpose. You don't know.
Let's take a step back for a minute. I want to hear personally, you guys know people, or young people or friends that have left the church. Do you have experience with this thing?
yeah, I have. They weren't close to me, but they were in my church, and I saw them leave.
Yeah.
I feel like we, at least in my church, I've had a super strong group of friends that I've grown up with. So I know all the young people in our church. We really haven't really had many people leave in my generation, at least, from the church, which I'm really proud of. So,
Well, personally for me, I'm the only kid who actually goes to my church. I'm the youngest kid there. And there's a really small church, and, I stay there because I have a relationship with God, and that's the reason I'm there. But I think a lot of people today, they've grown up with God in their life, but the thing is that it's more, they haven't made a personal decision. So especially when they're given a chance, graduating from high school and they're moving on to college, they tend to leave the church because it's always been more of a tradition than a personal thing for them.
yeah, it's
Kind of like an obligation,
Yeah.
that maybe parents would tell them oh yeah, you gotta go to church every day.
So you and Trey both and Seth have both grown up in the church your whole entire life, right? Mm-hmm. So what was different for you that keeps you in it and makes you want to still be in the church?
I think it was the friends, because I grew up when I was in Indonesia, my friends, my best friends, my friend group, they were my church friends. So since I was 6 until I moved here or moved to Papua New Guinea, for 9 years, I was always with that group of friends, and we were always active in the church. We would go to Pathfinders together, we would do at AY together, and we just do everything together. So I think that was a big reason I was still involved and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Pathfinders for me too is, I don't think I really wanted to stay in the church up until I got serious with Pathfinders. It gave me a mission. It gave me something that I can do, I can help out in. And I think that really, because all of a sudden I had to step into all these leadership positions, and I needed to know more about God, and I needed to firm my foundation. And so that kind of set me on a path of reading my Bible every day, doing all this extracurricular religious activities. So I definitely think Pathfinders and youth ministries is a big part of keeping youth in the church.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the statistics and you look at the research, right, something really interesting to take note of is if you look at it, the Adventist Church is not the only organization that has trouble with keeping young people, right? And I think it's really a cultural trend. It's a trend in the world, in our country, where young people are not only are they leaving church, but they're leaving like societal norms in general.
Yeah.
Right? So things that normally would have been accepted without question or not being questioned, right? And so one of the things that I think that it's a multifaceted answer, right? So it's not like a one thing is going to fix it,
Yeah.
right? However, with that being said, I do think that like the super great points about like relationship and involvement, because ultimately, young people, whether it's the Adventist Church or whether it's different organizations, and like I just said, they're questioning, right? If you can fill that questioning, that like lost sense of identity with something, with identity, right? That's how you're going to keep them in the church. And that's not just how you're going to keep them in the church. That's how you're going to keep them in organizations in general, right? Involved, into like plugged in, right? That's like one of the ways.
Yeah, so like, because Trey, you were like kind of disagreeing with what Cora said in the beginning. So now I think like I agree with like both of you guys. Like we need like relationships, like connections, like within the church, like friendships and stuff. And we also need like those programs or like those things to get involved with. But then like I feel like a lot of teens, especially, I think it's just because like of our age group, like we want to like be with our friends and like we want to like do things with our friends. So if the church had like events or like things that would make us like do things together with our friends, that would like go well.
Yeah, it's like connection for what, right? Relationship for what? It's relationship for involvement in for a purpose, right? And I think that makes a deeper relationship in general. Right.
So how can we've talked about, I guess, maybe a possible solution. So maybe getting more active in the church, but also what you said, involving the people more, making it more of a personal thing. So how do we do that in our Christian and church experience, I guess? I don't know the terminology, I guess, that we could call that. Like how do we fix this problem that we've created?
I mean, going off of that relationships thing again, it's about creating those groups of people. So for you guys have Pathfinders. At my church, as I said, I'm the youngest person there. Me and my sister are. And so for us, we don't really have that group of people, and sometimes it's hard to want to go to church. And, you know, the only times I find myself wanting to go to church when I'm at home is when I am put in a position, like I'm doing special music, or I'm doing a children's story, or I'm, you know, helping out. And so it's really about creating those groups of people, creating those spaces even outside of church.
Yeah.
That make you want to go there.
So where do you go, like, in the spaces outside to get your, I guess, community, like...
Yeah. So, obviously I have GLA,
Okay.
and that's my main thing, but when I am at home, our church is very small, but we're also really big on doing ministry with the community.
Got it.
And so we hold a corn fest even.
Corn fest?
It's really interesting. We cook corn on the grill, and then we give it out to like everybody, and everybody in the community is invited. Okay. And we get bounce houses, and we put them in the back of our church, and we throw like just mini events that we do. And a lot of the time, sister churches that are around us will come, and those churches have a lot more community and a lot more kids there.
Yeah.
And so that's where I find myself creating those relationships with a younger generation that, you know, help inspire me to keep going to my church and to keep, you know, having a relationship with God.
Yeah, it's really about like that involvement for purpose.
Yeah.
Relationship for purpose, right? I think that it's important when I'm thinking about this and think about it in my mind, like it really is about, you know, why am I here, right? I'm here to get a relationship with God. I'm here to share that relationship with others. If you can plug young people into that, right? If you put young people in a space where they are building a relationship with God and also have a reason to share with others and have a method and a way to do that, I think it's super powerful, right?
Yeah. So I have some notes written down, and I'd like to read them. It's an answer to the question, how do we fix this? Evangelism. By giving our youth a mission, we give them a purpose, which gives them a reason to stay in the church. That's why Pathfinders and adventures are so important in our church. For keeping the youth, and even the adults, because the 63%, there's still the 37 that are older than the youth. So when you have the youth that are, or not the youth, the younger generation below the youth, the kids, their parents are still likely to leave the church too. So Adventures keeps them in because it gives them a purpose for their kids. When it gives them a reason to stay in because it's something better for their kids. It also works with Adventist education, which I believe with Pathfinders is the pinnacle of our Adventist education because it teaches and gives our youth that purpose and reason and a source of light for us to follow and to stay in the church.
Yeah, like I agree with that. Like I've seen a lot of, like I have cousins that are like adults that are like parents now. Oh, and I have my uncles too. Like ever since they're like child, like went to Adventures, they're more like in the church and they're like, yeah, go, that's my daughter, you know, and like they're like getting more involved.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Ultimately, like when we look at this issue, it's not an issue that like, oh, one solution is gonna fix it, right? It's not an issue where like we can find the magic key, but it's an issue where we can put resources and time and there's multiple solutions, right? And one of those solutions, like I think that you said is super important, is ultimately it all comes down to involvement in mission, right? And that is the bridge to the reason for young people to stay in the church is because they're there for a reason, right? So it's like you have to, as a young person, you have to make your space. Yeah. Right? Make your space in the church. You're there for a reason. You're there to build a relationship with God, and you're there to share with others, right? And when you understand that, you're going to have a reason to be there.
I think that's a great place to close out. I know we're short on time right now, but it is. So I'm going to ask the audience, where do you find your purpose in the Adventist church? How can you stay engaged in ministry and in the church today?
Relevant was hosted by Trace Lickers and co-hosted by Naya Mamarimbing. Our guests were Pastor Seth McKelvey and Cora Hall. Today's show was produced by Alexander Winkler and recorded on the campus of Great Lakes Adventist Academy. Don't forget to check out our website, relevant.show, where you can send us a message or learn more about our show. Thanks for listening and see you next week.